questions. So now that we're recording, hi everyone, my name is Lauren Gross. We've been talking in here, but for everyone that doesn't know me, I'm the president of Women in Business. I'm a junior at IUPUI, and so today we will having our real estate club and Women in Business panel with UCrew. We have three wonderful panelists with us today. We'll start off with a little introduction of all of them, and then jump into our questions. So our first panelist is Sam. Sam is the president and founder of Doris Research. She started her career in Indianapolis as an interior designer and then returned to school in 2010 to earn her MFA in design thinking and design research from Indiana University. Because we're all Kellys, we love Indiana University. And so we applaud her for that. In 2012, she founded Doris Research. And so we're excited to hear from her today. Our second panelist is Leslie Teske. She founded in 2008 Cressa after leaving JP Morgan Chase. She is now the principal of the Indianapolis office and was awarded that title in 2019. So we are also excited to hear from her. And our third panelist is Carrie Sermersheim, not with an H. She is leader in project development for American Structure Point. And so we are excited to hear from these ladies about their history within business, their roles that they're in, and then ask them a few questions at the end. I know we have a few people in here right now, but for everyone that will be watching online and through our YouTube channel, if you have any questions that you would like asked after the conclusion of this and we have finished this meeting, you can go ahead and send them to myself or Rachel, who is our social media chair. She is on this meeting right now, and so we will be able to get those questions answered for you. So the first question for all of the panelists is, aside from what is in your bio, what is your current role within your job? And then what do you enjoy most about that position? So we can go ahead and start with Sam, Leslie, and then Carrie.
Great. Thank you so much for having us. We're excited to see those of you that have joined, and then happy to help impart any wisdom we can on those that are going to be watching later. So my role is the president of Doris. So I founded Doris after a grad school project in 2012. And in the beginning, I was the only employee of Doris, of the company that I founded. And I would do kind of all the things, whether it be, sell the project, do the administrative work, run the books, change the light bulbs, and then do the actual research with our clients. I guess I should say at Doris, we do workplace research. So we work with usually a commercial organization that's thinking about making some kind of physical change to most often an office space, sometimes higher ed, sometimes manufacturing, but most often office. And we'll collect data that will help inform decision making. So I used to do all of that. Now, 8 years later, there are other folks that work with me at Doris, and my time is mostly spent between business development and more administrative things. So we have a woman on our staff that runs at the highest level, will run all the projects for us. So I'm not generally super involved in our actual research projects anymore. But I do get insight into them, and they'll share, what they're working on. Let me take a look at maybe what they're finding ultimately, or I'll attend client meetings. Okay. And the second part of the question was, what do I like most about what I do? Is that accurate?
Yeah. What within your role, what's something you enjoy about day to day, anything you want to provide about your specific role that you're in right now?
Okay. I'm very curious. So I love when I get to meet, my job will be kind of upfront, right? So I get to go out and meet clients or prospects, people that might be clients. And I love to ask a ton of questions and just learn what other people do, at their particular organizations. That's probably the most interesting part of my job and what I enjoy the most. I am probably pretty competitive. So I do enjoy, once we do actually win projects here and there, that's also a really fun part of my job too. So I like that.
Great. And we can move on to Leslie next. Tell us a little bit about your current role, and then any day-to-day activities you enjoy the most, along with Sam being competitive. If you have a trait about you that you love the most, go ahead.
So my title is, I'm the managing principal of the Cressa office, and what my job actually is, though, is I'm a commercial real estate broker. The company I work with, Cressa, we exclusively represent the occupiers of space in commercial real estate transactions. So what that means is I represent clients or small businesses or businesses when they're looking to expand, downsize, relocate, or purchase, but again, from the occupier side only. The role of brokerage is very similar to actually the same role as like a residential agent, but we're obviously dealing with commercial properties. What I love, I really like everything I do, to be quite honest, and that's a really vague answer, but I love the fact that every day is different. I don't have a set schedule. So literally I go, some days I'm in the office or I'll be out meeting people, which brings me to another part. I love just meeting people. It's a very social job. And so it's just fun to meet different people, learn about their businesses and what they do. So there's so many fascinating businesses out there that you have no idea exist. And so I really kind of like getting in and learning about what companies do. And like Sam, I am very competitive, and this is, at the end of the day, it's a sales job. So I like finding new business. I like to, once you go and you present, I like landing the clients. I like the negotiations because it's kind of a battle back and forth with the other side. And so that kind of fuels my competitive side as well. And then at the end of the day, I love the clients I work with, and I feel great when I go to bed at night that I know that I help these businesses save time, save money on their commercial real estate.
Sounds interesting as well. And then Carrie, you can finish this question up for us.
Well, I love it because I'm not competitive at all.
Yeah, right.
I just like to win. All right. So my job, first and foremost, is connect my team. So I work for an architecture and engineering team. We have over 500 staff, over 11 service lines. Service lines to us mean like disciplines. I've got architecture, structural engineering, civil engineering, forensic engineering, environmental engineering, urban planning, all of these things, right? So I navigate internally to bring clients to the right team, right? But I'm also externally focused on which clients are the best fit for us to pursue as, you know, prospects. We just generalize them as clients. We just assume they're going to pick us. So that's so funny because I laugh because, like Sam said, I mean, our hit rates, like this industry is so freaking competitive, man. And like our hit rates, I might win 1 out of 10 things that I like put my heart and soul into. Like it's just that competitive, but it's enough to pay our bills, I guess. So they keep us on. But it's like that for all of us, you know. There's just so much competition. So that's what I do basically, are navigate different client types. So I have healthcare, higher education, and municipal are my kind of focus markets, all very different in how they buy their professional services. So that's my job, to know that and to know where to look for a need, a space need, a trigger, right? I think that my favorite part of my job, hands down, well, I'm very social too. So my job is to know who does what around the city, right? So I know exactly what Leslie does. I know exactly what Sam does. I make that, you know, my business because we partner. And so when I say partner, I build custom teams to pursue specific project opportunities. So, you know, if IU Health, bad example. No, I'm just kidding. So we'll use the IUPUI, right? So if they are going to build a building, right, they have an architect that they're going to select, and then the architect will have this team under them of other design consultants, typically the civil, the structural, any space consultants, lab consultants, specialists, right, will all funnel up under the architect as the lead, who's also the lead project manager for the team. So my job becomes to navigate the wealth of partners on a national scale that bring a differentiator to our team for consideration. So when you throw 13 proposals, right, for $100 million project, you know, and each of them are all custom, right? They're all going to say the same crap. We have, here's all the projects that we've done. Here's all the people that we've done. Here's how much we're going to charge you, right? So how do you differentiate yourself to the owners when they're just reading all of this gibberish, you know, over and over again? So that's where we try to frame our differentiators in a different way. And that hunt is what fuels me. Like, that's what I get excited about. I'm a hunter.
You're not competitive.
No.
I'm a killer. Okay. No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
I'm just kidding. No, you have to be. I mean, if you're not competitive, then you're going to be on the side that's not charged with bringing business to your firm, right? You'll be on the doer side. And for most of us in any principal level position, you have to do both. You know, architects cannot just sit at their desk and with their hands out and wait for work to come. You know, they have to be involved. You have to know what's going on in your market.
So it seems all of you have an interesting area of your work. This question can be posed towards Leslie. Have you encountered a favorite project or task within your current role that you think has been a defining moment for you?
Yeah, and I don't know how much detail to give, so I don't want to bore you too much with the nitty gritty, but my favorite project that I've done, and it's been the biggest deal of my career, is there was a San Diego-based company. They produce a coffee concentrate product, and coffee concentrates are booming. Everyone's doing the cold brews, and they sell it to restaurants, they sell it to other vendors. So they needed another facility, and so they were looking at multiple states. And so I was able to assist them. I paired up with an incentives advisor, was able to look at the incentives that are available in Indiana, I think it was Texas, as well as Georgia. Fortunately, Indiana had the best incentives, so we narrowed it down to that. Then we went out to the market looking at the various counties and who had the best. Like some of the smaller towns and smaller counties are willing to offer more to companies that are going to come to their city or town to build big facilities and offer lots of jobs. So we went to several different locations to find a good fit. We were looking at doing a build to suit where basically they build a building that specifically fit their needs. And we are pretty far down the road with that when we actually found an existing facility within Indianapolis that really met their needs because they had a similar use previously. The challenge was my client was in a position to lease a building, and this building was for sale only. They would not even consider doing a lease option. And my client wasn't in a position to purchase the building. So I was able then to reach out to a local developer who we got to purchase the building for us and then lease it directly to my client. And so again, it was just a really fun project because it had a lot of moving pieces and parts, and we were able to basically put this puzzle together. And at the end of the day, the developer that purchased the building and leased it to my client, they made out very well. This company that my client, they're booming, so they're probably going to end up selling to a larger organization. So it was a great fit for them. So they were able to grow their business so they could sell. And then for me, at the end of the day, it was great. I was able to help them all, but then even from a financial standpoint, I was able to represent the developer in the purchase transaction of the building, and then I represented my client in the leasing transaction. And so I was able to basically double dip on the commission, which was pretty awesome as well. So yeah.
That sounds amazing.
It wasn't bad.
So this next question jumps a little bit into, we were talking about beforehand, the equity between women and men. So this can be directed towards Sam. What impact do you think, and especially being your own business owner, you've been able to make for women in your current role? I feel like there are some challenges within the business world that as women we do face. And so is there anything that you think that your business, or even before you founded Doris, that you've been able to do to support women, or even within crew? What do you think your impacts are within that area?
Wow. I hope strong. You know, it's always hard to know immediately. So Doris, as of right now, employs all women, and that's not like a requirement to work here. We just hire smart people. But I think that we've given a lot of folks inside Doris a lot of opportunities early on to have a seat at the table that they might not have had. And folks that have left here have found their way into big time jobs. That makes us really proud. You know, that we were maybe that stepping stone that enabled that maybe to happen faster than maybe they would have before. I think we also maybe we create an environment that's let's say accepting of, so there are a number of women that work with me that have children, young children, and we create a really flexible environment for you to be really good at your job and you know, sort of still be a mom. which dads still have to do too. And there's a lot of responsibility there on everyone, but we take that pretty seriously. We're a very small business, but we have a full pay 12-week maternity to paternity plan. There's things like that they're going to be really hard on us as a business, but we are not going to compromise on some of those things. So I think it's that. And then additionally, there literally anybody that listens to this recording, this is dangerous, but like anybody that ever emails me to meet, and they're almost always women, I will take any coffee meeting with literally anyone at any time and then try to help them basically just through leveraging my own network. What are you trying to do? I probably know 3 people that do something kind of like that. And I'm happy to connect you. So that I always try to pay it forward because other people have done that for me.
Yeah. And Carrie, would you like to add anything? I see that you're nodding your head as well.
Oh, I just get very excited about supporting other people, and especially with opportunities that we're not looking for. That's just it. Maybe that we're not looking for, right? Like there's been so much research done on how women work and approach work and what we need from work to be successful. And it's different. I mean, it just is across all people. So as we're learning, why there's such a low number of women in the C-suites nationally across Fortune 500 companies or down to 100 companies, whatever that is, as we're finding out the reasons why, however many of us can pay attention to that and make it a more hospitable environment for women just in general. Like I'm with Sam, we're allies, we're resources, we're supporters. I mean, I do the same thing. I love to connect people. So like you said, I hope it pays off.
If you don't mind, I'm going to add in on this as well. This is something I think all of us are very passionate about. All 3 of us have been very actively involved in Indie Crew for quite some time. And the mission of Crew is about advancing women within our industry. And the commercial real estate industry is a very heavily male-dominated field. And this gives us a place to find like-minded women and men as well that are allies. So Calvin, I do applaud you being on this Women in Business session today as well, because that's very important. Because if we just have a bunch of women sitting around together talking about how important it is to have equity, we're missing the point. We need our male allies to understand this as well and be supportive, because it's going to take everybody to make significant change within our industry. So that's kind of my 2 cents. And I just think it's so important to kind of reach your hand back at the next generation or even same generation that are just new to the industry and do anything and everything you can to help them. And so that's why I do things like this, because I think it's just so important. And I wish I had resources like this when I got into the industry. Mm-hmm. And I just didn't know where to look. So.
We appreciate you all for being so supportive and giving that reach back. I know as college students, sometimes it is a bit hard to find that networking and want to reach out. And so we do appreciate you guys coming today. Our next question, and this can go for Carrie, just because we had touched on it a little bit, and this goes more towards students. What advice would you give students to refine their skills in being competitive and being professional within entry-level positions? I know some of the worries with entry-level positions is the reach that you can have within a company. And so what would you recommend, piece of advice, something specific for students that are wanting to kind of get more of that professional experience early on?
I think the first thing that can really make it hard as you're starting is if you get into the office gossip, right? And get tied into all the drama of that, just leave that. I don't know how to say that, but you've got to be above it. When you're working next to people, you're going to have relationships. That's a must. But you have to learn how to present your personal brand, and you have to live that, right? Because that is your reflection. And so, I'm not telling anybody to, put who you are on the shelf, right? But think about who you want to be and go be that person, aspire to be that person. And I think that's the best piece. Raising your hand, this gets very tiresome. It's exhausting trying to work like a man. I'll just tell you that, because I have different ways of going about doing things, but in some instances, like you have to follow suit, right? So for me, let's just talk about allyship versus mentorship for a second, right? So mentorship, women are much more likely to be mentored. I want to say it's something like at least 50% more likely to be mentored than have an ally. When I say mentor, it's, hey, the next time you get into that ex-client meeting, do this and this and this. That'll be really great. You're going to look really smart, right? Where our male counterparts, it's 3 times likely that this person, the same person would say, hey, I'm going to meet this client. Do you want to come? Do you want to come have coffee with us? And they would bring them with them, right? Like that's allyship versus mentorship. So why that's the case, I don't know. But putting yourself in a place of, open to allyship, and there are men who are still worried about the perception of like hanging out with a young female. I've had men refuse to meet with me on my own, like clients. There was a hospital CEO who wouldn't meet with me on my own because I was a female. He asked me to bring a male colleague. And I'm like, that is so freaking weird. But I get it, like they've got to protect themselves too in some weird way. So how do you, as, a young, whoever, male or female, raise your hand and still be at this place of consideration without like making your mentor feel weird? So I always gravitate towards the women, right? Because there's not that weirdness. There's not that, it just is off the table, right? But that's not reality. Like I work under 18 male executives, right? There are no women. There's 18 white male executives, and they are the best support team. They love me to death. They spoil me. All of you can attest to it. I have the best job ever. But I have to, like, it's exhausting sometimes to park my craziness and talk to engineers because they're very linear. So I have to like really tone it down. So know your audience, know your personal brand, who you want to be, why you want to be it, and keep raising your hand. Hey, I see you've got coffee with so-and-so. Can I come? If not, that's okay. But I'd really like to join you to hear how the conversation goes. Right.
I've got just another, that is, yes. And I've got just another thought on this as well that I think kind of piggybacks on what Carrie was saying. To me, when I even just look at the small group that I work with, the folks that seem to succeed faster are the people who are problem solvers. So when there is a challenge at work, the ones that bring me a solution, not a problem, are the people that will probably succeed faster. So
amen.
Don't go find someone and say, I can't, this is a problem I've ran into. It's much better if you go and say, I ran into this problem and either here's 3 ways I can solve it, or I already solved it and I did this.
Even if your solution is totally stupid and your person is like, nice try. I appreciate your effort, but let's go here. At least you tried, right? Like, don't be afraid of that. Like, you can't be afraid of failure, but that is a perfect lesson, Sam. I love that. You guys writing all this down? There's gonna be a quiz. Hey, Michael, welcome to the party. What are you doing?
Thanks for having me.
Are you a finance major? Wait, let me guess.
No, Michael is who connected all of us. He's graduated already. Yeah.
Hey, Michael, what do? You have a job now?
Yep, I graduated and I'm an appraiser now, or I'm training to be one.
Cool, that's great. Okay, sorry.
Oh, you're perfectly fine. Jumping into our next question, and this can be posed to anyone. I know because you're all in different fields, this will be different answers. But into the social issues, how has COVID impacted your field of business? How do you think it's impacted even just your daily workday? And then what changes have you made based on that situation?
I'll jump in first. So last March, when the world shut down, the commercial real estate industry in terms of brokerage shut down immediately. Going into 2020, my pipeline of business was probably as strong as it's ever been. I was looking forward to this amazing year. And then March happened. And literally every project I was working on came to a screeching halt. Some of them came to a permanent stop and they were just like, we are not doing anything. Many of them, fortunately, were on pause, but there were, 2 to 3 months where, you have severe anxiety because you're like, oh, okay, this is what I do for a living. And it's really hard to call people and say, let's talk about your office space when the entire world is working from their house. That's just not a conversation that anyone wants to have. And so fast forward, the year actually ended out really well for us. We were fortunate enough to have a few clients that I consider COVID proof, working with a couple of laboratory groups, one of which creates COVID tests now. So they're expanding rapidly. So we were very fortunate to be in that position. Also, several of our clients are medical office users, and they too pumped the brakes when everything slowed down because they just weren't sure what was going to happen to their industry. But as things kind of opened up again, those deals came back as well. So the year ended up really well. The challenge is it hasn't fully recovered, and none of us fully know the implications of COVID on the commercial real estate industry. So my clients that are in traditional office spaces, they don't know what to do yet because most of their their employees are still working from home, or only a few of their employees are in the office still. And so they're trying to figure out, what do we do with this space? How much space do we need? And if they have a lease expiration, what do we do with this? Because we just don't know. So our advice to clients that do have a lease expiration that don't know is just kick the can down the road, do a very short-term renewal, and then maybe we can reevaluate the situation in a year or 18 months from now, because we truly just don't know how things are going to shake out. The retail sector was definitely hardest hit, and I think we're still going to see more and more of that as restaurants and other vendors continue to close. Now, that being said, there are businesses starting to come back. COVID restrictions are lifting, so that's great news for many of those types of businesses. And the retail owners and developers are becoming more creative. They're leasing, traditional retail space to, say, medical office users, or just traditional businesses, so that way they can at least get the clients or tenants in their spaces. So yeah, like I said, there was a lot of uncertainty, a lot of, just to be honest, just a lot of anxiety last year, but it did work out. And so yeah, just going forward, all I can do is just advise my clients just to be very, very cautious with their decisions. Tread water if you can, and then hopefully in, like I said, a year, 18 months, we have a better idea of what the office world looks like and how space is going to be used, because it is changing, and Sam can probably go into a lot more detail of that because she thoroughly researches this. But that's what companies are figuring out, is how much space do we need and how are we going to use it, and how many employees are actually going to come in versus how many are going to be remote.
I mean, I could almost retweet exactly what Leslie said, starting in March. The same thing happened for us. Very nice pipeline coming into 20. And then within a matter of 2 weeks, it was gone, like just gone in a really devastating way for a small business. But we are scrappy and, figured out how to recover and get out of 20. But what's kind of neat about Leslie's story is take her, her clients who are doing the, 1-year renewal. Those people are talking to us right now about, well, what does that mean? So we've kind of silver lining out of this is there are so many people that are reaching out at this point, trying to figure out what their play is from a comeback situation. So, we are starting to pick up in ways and do work that we never would have done had this situation not occurred. So it could be, looking back in 5 years, it might be a great thing. It was very painful going through, the year of just loss of project work. Crap. Thank you. I'm like, what nice word can I use here? Yeah, but we'll see. We're optimistic.
Sam, I need to send all my clients to you to figure out what they're doing. So I need to remember that more. Yes.
Let us know.
So I will jump in. My view looks a little bit differently. I've got 2 lenses, actually, one for each eye. So this eye sees our business and noticing that we have a very diverse client base. So we have public clients and private clients. We have transportation clients and private vertical clients. So usually when one is spending money, the other is pulling up, right? And vice versa. So in this instance, we were able to keep moving forward just by shifting our focus a little bit, right? And so I spent most of my COVID year with our Indiana hospital systems, and those, and I'm lucky that, you know, I have the ability to flex on this, you know, in a small business. Scrappy is a great word for that, right? But we have a little bit more flexibility, and it was truly devastating to so many businesses, right? But I was able to come to the table with them and figure out, what does post-pandemic really mean? And so that's a lot of the thought that we've had. And then my other eye is looking at the glass half full, right? So working with a very established, very formal, engineering driven organization, there were a lot of things that were expected, and to be in the office was one of them, right? Like, this is old school mentality. You better be here 60, 150 hours a week, you know, or you're not doing a good job, right? Even if those are like the worst 150 hours a week of anybody's career, right? Like, nobody does like anything good when they're just sitting around for that long. Like, who wants to do that, right? So we all had to go home, right? And so we proved not only to each other, but to ourselves that we could be productive. And that's given us a lot of sort of just life balance that we never anticipated. It forced it. So now our CEO is coming on the other side. He's like, wow, you guys really surprised me. Like, you're still, you know, busting ass over here. And, you know, without me babysitting you. We're like, duh, you know, of course we are. And so we've also led our clients to facilitate Zoom meetings, right? Like, I did an interview for, okay, project story, case study. We had been pursuing the Lafayette Police Station, right? It's a $40 million police public safety facility with a parking structure, right? We'd been pursuing this for like 2 years. And by that, I mean, I'd been meeting with people. We'd been talking to the police chief and the mayor and everybody and their brother, trying to understand how it's going to go and how we're going to get there and how we're going to be the best, right? I had our whole custom team established. We had been shortlisted. And then Friday the 13th comes, right? And the world shuts down. So life goes on, you know, and the municipalities were the last ones to pull up, because they're like, no, you know, they don't want to believe it's actually happening, right? So so they moved forward with our interview, and in person, actually, and it was going to be like that first week in April. And we kept saying, like, there is no flipping way that they're going to do this interview in person. Like, there's just not. We can't even go out on the road. They're going to pull us over, you know, like, we can't do this. And they, like, to the very end. So we had developed dual presentations, which is a whole other situation. But this was our first attempt at conveying who we are, how we synergize, what the chemistry is among our team, how we're going to work for you, our client, right, on a virtual platform that nobody knew what the heck they were doing, right? So, you know, we were on 2 hours early, sitting there looking at everybody's faces, you know, everybody was on mute, and like, it was ridiculous, but we figured it out. And, you know, we led the client through that. It was like, they sent me up there actually to meet with the freaking mayor's chief of staff, to get into the conference room and like Zoom the camera, you know, like, that's the level of effort we go through, right? And we won. So that's great. That's why I'm telling the story.
So Carrie, you went to the meeting in person and your team was back on Zoom?
No, I went the day before.
Got it. And established the connection.
Yeah. And yes. And make sure it all worked and yeah. Because, you know, you still have the people who are like, well, my office is right over there. I'm just going to walk over and be in person. And they're like, well, and they did actually still have themselves in a room. There was like 5 or 6 of them in the room. But our team was in person, because it was like 10 people or 12 people, whatever that was. But being able to, like, resiliency, flexibility, pivot, these are all words that we live by now.
Those are all the 2020 buzzwords. Yeah.
Buzzwords. Don't get that.
New normal.
It's going to be frowned upon.
New normal. Yep. That one too.
So it seems like the common theme, especially in the professional world, is that you guys had to adapt to COVID. I know for students as well, we have also had to adapt, going from in person. I know Professor Coers knows this as well. Going from teaching in person to being online is definitely a struggle. So for people that are going to enter into the professional world job market post-COVID, do you have any specific resources that you think would be best for locating new jobs? And then what do you think the best ways are to connect with people, especially with some companies still being on the virtual format?
I have to take this. You have to
Right.
look at people like us because that's what we do. We're connectors, right? And there's a bunch of organizations and that's what we do. I mean, you can go to like the internet and search job, and this is what I used to tell my sister, like nobody's going to come knock on your door and give you a job because you're pretty. Like you have to go get it, right? And you have to want it. And so that's where people like us know. I want to know everybody in the city, right? Like that is truly my goal, or this country, in the world, everybody. Because that's my favorite thing to do, right? Connect people. So yeah, you're like, hey, I'm sports. You know who I want to connect you with? The Indiana Sports Corp and like the people who run, I forget him now. Sports used to be one of my market. What's his name? He's got quadruplets.
Wow.
He works there. I'll think about it. It's the people who run the convention center and Bankers Life. Like, who was that? You guys know who I'm talking about. Come on.
NCAA would be a good one.
It's for yeah, that would be a good one. But it's for the state or even the Pacers organization. Who do you want to work for, Lauren? You just tell us, and that's how this works. Then we like.
Hey, I will not turn down people if you want to stay after for a few minutes, I'm up for it. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'll add on to what Carrie said. And first off, Carrie, I just wish you had a bigger personality. You just need to come out of your shell eventually.
On these.
I know, it's a pity.
I've been home all day, okay? I don't get to talk to people. I'm at Kroger and I'm like, hey, what are you doing over there?
But no, to add on that, I would use LinkedIn as much as possible. Typically, I would say go out, network, join the networking groups, go to different things. But many of the different organizations are still either virtual or very limited on their in-person activities. But LinkedIn is such a powerful tool. And if you look at, what companies do you want to work for? Look who's there and see, obviously, if you have any second degree connections. Reach out to people like us that you meet on these virtual networking events. We're here because we actually like helping people and we want to connect people. And so you can connect with me, look through my LinkedIn profile, see who I know, or let's schedule a Zoom or a coffee because I'm actually doing more in-person coffees these days. And let's just talk about what you want to do, who you want to know. And then I can at least connect you to people that if I don't know them directly, they can get you a little bit closer to that person, because getting a job truly is about who you know. And so you just need to know as many people as possible. I can't imagine trying to apply for a job the old fashioned way of just kind of submitting a resume and then waiting and hoping. And I know it does happen that way, but that can be a very tedious and laborious process where this way, getting that warm introduction to a company is so much more powerful than just sending the cold resume.
That's as I'm describing of, you can't just sit there and look pretty, right? Like you got to go get it.
Yep.
This is the lesson that I did not learn until well after grad school, probably. But my parents were probably, Carrie talked about like sort of the doers and then the sellers. Maybe my parents were probably in their career more, maybe the doers. And so I never grew up with like the notion of a network. And when I first started working and people gave me their business card, I would throw it away. So I didn't know what it was for. And so, I mean, it is such a lesson learned, luckily I learned it quickly, but yeah, if I wanted to find a job, there's no way I would look on the internet. I would immediately start to leverage any neighbor network, any person you meet. And what's so nice about Indiana is that basically any person I have found, and I know others maybe don't have this experience, but if you kind of have the nerves to just email someone that you find that, you can kind of internet sleuth into their email, it is probably a 50-50 chance that they're going to respond to you and at least get on a 30-minute phone call with you or something. That's probably more of an effective way to, and then ask that person who they know that they can introduce you to.
So yes. So the group I was thinking of is Visit Indy. Okay. So that's one thing that would be fantastic. The second thing is if you sit and look even on LinkedIn, well, it's a great resource. Yes. But, or like, what's the job one? Indeed, right? Like if you're looking there, then you're counting on this job this dream job you're looking for already existing. And it might not, right? So if you can network and understand what you want to do and who needs someone who does what you want to do, right? Then you can create your own position. And that's like mind blowing. I never would have thought of that, but that happens all the time. You're having conversations with people and you're like, oh, you really like to do proposals? Great. I need somebody that does that, or however that works. Like that is truly how the power of a network works.
And I will add just one last quick thought, because I've not been in the job market for quite some time, but I've had several close friends in the past couple of years that have been looking for jobs. And the biggest takeaway is when you're looking for a job, you need to treat the job search process like it is your job. It cannot be a passive activity. You need to fully engage and spend as much time as you are able, just again, treating that like it is a job, and go out and meet people and send the resumes, and just, you have to go, like you said, go get it and be aggressive, but really commit yourself to the process.
And interview them, right? Like if they suck, you don't want to work for them anyway, right? So like be, you know what I mean? Like be particular about that too.
So getting outside, I guess kind of staying within that realm, this question could be for Sam. With COVID changing the business world, aside from the past year that we've had, how do you think within your business that it has changed within the past 5? And then how do you think it will be different within the next 5? So back 5 and then forward 5. How do you think those differences will change?
Months or years?
Years.
Okay, so like it has changed a lot in 5 months too.
Days too, if you want to go.
5 days, 5 months, 5 weeks. Let's see, how has business changed? Well, so obviously back 5, COVID wasn't there before that, but the employer, I think, even within the last 5 years, they are considering the talent pool more and more and trying to figure out how to create a place that will entice an employee in based on an experience. So that was kind of the direction we were already starting to go, and COVID accelerated that, where we might have gotten there in 5 years, but we got there in 12 months because of COVID. So fast forward 5 years, I think this experience will, I think offices will continue to kind of be more of these like we spaces where, we'll come together to convene, but we'll do maybe our focused work somewhere else. That will be very industry based, and even within organizations, I think that will be maybe departmental or business unit based. But I think we will continue to sort of allow flexibility. But what's interesting to me is some of what I'm reading about this notion of sort of flexibility and, who might take advantage of it. And Carrie, you kind of asked this question about how do you maybe advance your career, or what might you do for women? I've been reading about who might take advantage more of, let's say, working away from an office than in an office. It's possible that society will put more pressure on women to do that. Like, okay, you can take a job where you can be at home at 3 to get the kids off the bus. Therefore, you should take that job and, work in that way. And that will be detrimental to women as a whole if we are kind of pigeoned into that, because it's likely just from human nature that leaders will probably have the socioeconomic resources to find people to do the things they need outside, so that they'll be able to, be present in an office more often. And it's likely that the folks that will be promoted are the folks that are seen, that are having sort of those opportunistic moments at an office. So if we aren't careful in the next 5 years, I'm fearful that let's say the wage gap between men and women could continue to increase if we don't set up some guardrails and not allow maybe some of that to happen. So I think it'll be very interesting, but a huge focus on enabling autonomy in the day of the worker, And how do we do that successfully so that business will stay strong? Who was talking about productivity? Leslie or Carrie? Carrie, you were. We just launched this whole study on where we better define the word productivity. And we figured out that there were two variations on it. One in which an individual defines productivity as their own output, their own responsibilities, and checking their own tasks off a list. But an overall business defines productivity in a different way. It encompasses many more things: innovation, creativity, strategy, collaboration. And so if we're not careful and we just solely focus on an individual's ability to get their own things done, we might miss out on things that are effective for an overall business that maybe need to be done more in a collective. So I think it will be interesting over the next 5 years to watch how we stumble through some of that as a society, and then what that does to workplaces. That was a lot. Sorry, that was a long answer. I don't know if that was helpful.
No, that's perfect. Leslie and Carrie, if you want to add anything to that, feel free.
I'm thinking about the time limits, right? So my CEO gives like some very encouraging pep talks, right? And like he said some things that have stuck with me. And one of them, when somebody asked him like, well, okay, so let me back up. So we're 55 years old, and at any 10-year point in our company's life, we've doubled in size. Okay, like starting from 2 people to over 500 in 5 states. That's enormous growth in 50 years. Okay, so he's up there, and we're doing our state of the company, and he's talking about how fast we are still like, because now it's a goal, right? Now it's to double in 10 years, right? 100 million in 10 years. That's our goal. We're almost there. We're at like year 8, and we've already made it, by the way. But he was saying like, look, I'm not pushing you guys to double the size of this company. You are doing this to yourselves because you're not happy with what you did last year. You want the next bigger, better thing. And that's why we're growing so quickly, right? It's the culture and the hunt of this company, right? That's doing this. So somebody asked him, well, where do you see us in 20 years? If we stay on this path. And he said something I will never forget. He said, 20 years ago, I could never in my wildest dreams come up with this, right? So to think about 20 years from now, I can't even imagine where we're going to be, even 5 years from now. So I'm setting tinier goals, right? Like, what do I want to do next month? Like, just to keep it moving. I just love that. Like, I don't want to put a framework on it because that'd be dumb, be like, I want everybody to have a laptop, by 2021. And like, well, I want everybody to have a work phone. Like, we don't even need that. Like, it's so crazy to think about how fast our industry grows. So that's it.
So switching gears a little bit here, we kind of wanted to touch a little bit on, you're a part of Crew, which is a great mentorship program, great way for people within the industry to get connected with one another. What role outside of mentorships, and then along with mentorships, do you think that education outside of the traditional classroom has given you? So a few examples that our executive board came up with: taking additional certification courses, watching videos, doing training online, having a mentor, or having that friendship with people within your workplace. What additional benefit do you think that has brought you that sometimes traditional education can't give you?
I have to. Did you call on someone? Because I'm about to go first.
Go. You got this.
Okay, Sam, I got us on this. So I came through the IUPUI School of Construction Management. And in construction school, right, like nobody told me how to win work. It's actually funny because all of my professors were architects and engineers at the time. So when I graduated, after like 25 years of being in school, I'm like, what's a construction manager actually do? And we get to my job, and then I go build buildings, and I figure it out, right? So then coming to an externally facing position in charge of bringing work to my firm, they don't teach you this in school either. They don't. Well, I've been out of school for a while. I think they're doing more of it, but they don't. In traditional school, you don't learn how important it is to have a network. You don't learn how to like negotiate a contract. You learn the basics of it, but school just basically means you can learn. You're not an expert in your field. So I would encourage you to take advantage of all the mentorships of people who are offering them, and don't, even if you're not sure, like, oh, I don't know, that person doesn't do what I want to do. Like, they're going to have something for you. You're going to come back with something.
Yeah, and I'm going to just add to that. I would jump on any and every opportunity that comes your way to learn more about your field or just more about professional development, whether that's, taking actual classes or if it's going to networking events or sitting in on leadership seminars, things like that, that can help you become a better worker and overall just more well-rounded. And I say jump on any and every opportunity that comes your way. Even if there's things that cross your path that you think, oh, I'm not ready for this, or this is above my level. My mantra is kind of like, I can figure out how to do almost anything that comes my way. Even though when you present it to me, I'm like, I have no idea how to do this thing. I trust in myself enough that I can figure out how to do it. And if I can't figure it out by myself, you have people around you that can help you. But just never be, well, depending on what your career goals are. I mean, for me, I don't ever want to be complacent with where I am, because you won't grow and you will not progress. If you are fine just getting a job and checking that box and just, sticking with the status quo, that is fine. But if you want to grow and if you're ambitious and have big career goals, then you need to jump on anything and everything that comes your way. So continuing education is so important, whether it is, getting additional degrees or informal.
So I'll talk to you about the acronyms, because INDICRU is one, but there's like NAIOP and NAWIC and SMPS and like ICBR and CREA, and like everything that you do, there's like people who also do that want to like get together and talk about that, right? So there are different strengths for different groups, right? So INDICRU is very network focused, and we're very professional development focused. So we have and education, right? So we have monthly luncheons that focus on what's going out in our industry, right? So we're bringing in like people that we respect their opinions and want to hear, right? Like how they see our city, our region, our state, our country, whatever the topic is. But then we have professional development that teaches us how to speak in front of people, how to, negotiate a deal. Like there's all of these things that are not formal education that I never knew existed, right? But like that's the benefit of what we do, because it keeps us current.
One other, yes, and all of that. And one other thing that has really helped me that I figured out maybe 5 or so years ago, I participated in something called SKL. For those of you that are in Indy, this is a really interesting program. Stanley K. Lacey, it's an executive leadership program, but it's really for, it's not like related to one industry. So you can look for there are many things kind of like this, like Carrie did something kind of like this with Women's Fund.
Women's Fund.
Yep. But so something I learned was, okay, so she just named a million acronyms that are like associated with our industry itself. But I think another really great place to grow is just to get involved in the community and be helpful. And so like SKL was a nice one. I got to learn about all kinds of various aspects of our community holistically, and then meet a cohort of 25 people that I could call for basically anything at this point, and they would do anything with me or for me. But like I joined Rotary, which is funny because I always think of Rotary as like 80-year-olds in like blue blazers. But Rotary is like a really nice
one now, Sam. You are that lady. You're an old lady, the blazer.
I know. But those, I feel like I learned so much from those because they're people outside my industry. And then, we can do community minded things that are, that stuff is just, it's both rewarding. And then you find people that you can help or that can help you in all of those networks.
There's a group called Indie Real. Isn't that what they're called? Real Indie. And it's like geared towards younger people, like people, just early in their careers.
Indie Hub's another good one for that too.
Oh yeah, Indie Hub. Yeah. Real is I think real estate focused, but it's I'll tell you, this is another like golden freaking nugget of advice. Okay, so write this down. If you come out and you're trying to position and work with and get in to see X person, you know, at the top of this company, right? And your task is to get to know this company, and you're trying to go for the CEO, CFO, whoever, right? And they're like, no, they're not going to meet with you because they already have their friends that they've been working with for 1500 years, you know? So if you could get in and make people in your own like generation, you know, and start your 40-year relationships with those people and kind of grow up through the industry together, once you all get to, you know, the top of wherever you want that to be, those partnerships are impenetrable, right? So then you're set, right? So I don't know, that's kind of cool. I just stopped trying to get in through that way and go in through my own people, and I've been a lot more successful.
And then a last question here. We have about 10 minutes left, so we can go over a few minutes. Good finisher for the night. Any general advice that you think would last with students for years to come? It can be as specific as you want, as general as you want. Just some, like you said, golden nugget of information that you think we should take with us. Whomever can start.
You got something, Carrie? You will, of course, have some very wise things. One of the things that I think is important, especially as you're early on in your career, is don't be afraid to work really, really hard. Like sometimes I'll notice that there will be folks coming right out of school that are like, well, you know, I work 40 hours a week and I don't want to be overworked. And, you know, I'm going to set these real serious boundaries. When you're kind of fresh and right out of school, now that's the time to really bust your butt, work real hard.
What else do you have to do besides work? Like, go do that.
Yeah. Yep. So that would be my advice. Like, just show up every day. Don't call in sick. I mean, don't come in, don't spread disease, but like go to work, show up, work real hard. Don't be afraid to put in more than 40 hours, show your value, and good things will happen from that.
Amen, sister.
It's so hard to come up with these little tidbits of wisdom, but I guess my couple of biggest points that have really been successful for me. First off, when you get into the work world, you're going to be insecure and you're going to think, oh my God, why am I here? And everyone here knows more about this than I do. Learn how to, this is kind of a skill to practice, basically fake confidence. Mm-hmm. Even though you are not confident, you need to kind of put on the face every day of the person that you want to become professionally. I've even heard it's like people say, fake it till you make it, and that's not it. It's fake it till you become it. Fake confidence until you truly become confident. And along with that, you don't have to know all the answers to everything. And it's better to say, I don't know the answer to that, but I can find out, rather than trying to fake things, because people can see through fake and they can tell if you don't know what you're talking about. It is so much better to truly step back and say, I don't know the answer, but I can get it. And then the third thing is that goes along with that is about being authentic. So I just said, fake your confidence, but be who you truly are at the end of the day. If you try to be someone you are not, people will see through that. We're all very different people and we all bring different strengths to the table. And so rely on that. And you may not be for everyone, and that's okay, but you will be a great fit somewhere. So just know that, be your true self. And again, just put on your confident face every single day, like you are supposed to be here and you are supposed to be at the table. And then next thing you know, people treat you like you are, and you're like, oh yeah, I actually should be here. And I actually do know what I'm talking about. But if you kind of come in with your tail between your legs, no one's going to take you seriously and you're going to get looked over for a lot of opportunities.
Yes. Okay. So what Leslie's saying, if you say you're going to do something, do it. Okay. There's not going to be a professor or like a little website you can log in and see what your grade is. And if you missed any assignments, right? Like people just know you're not worth dealing with, right? Like do it and do more than don't, you should never have to be asked like, hey, you said you were going to get that. Did you get that? Like that sucks. And so those kind of people also get skipped over. Like, even if you are not wanting to go out and be fierce and you want to do your 40 hours, you want to be like, just be good at it, right? If you're gonna have a job, be good at that job. My second piece of wisdom, talking about the different types of women, right? So I truly believe that there are two types of women and people. Okay, so the type of women, one type would be, oh man, I made it to this really high level the hard way. Like everything I had to do was hard. Everybody treated me like crap the whole way. Like life was so unfair to me because I'm a female in commercial real estate. But you know what? I made it, and I'm badass now, and I'm going to be mean to everybody, right? Because you don't deserve to, skip over all of this. Like, I'm strong and I'm tough, and it's a place of tough love. I truly believe that they're coming from still like a place that they feel is good. But it's like, I'm not going to help you, because if I do, then you're not going to be strong when you get there. And you're going to need to be strong when you get there to deal with this crap. Okay. So on the flip side of that, you have women like us who are saying, look, we've come a long way, but there is so much further for us to go. I mean, we've only really been in the workforce for like 30 years. I mean, something so minuscule in the main scheme of earth and the world of productivity, right? So, we're going to take you my generation, Sam, Leslie, our generation is going to take this as far as we can possibly go. But then that next generation, we want them to start where we stop, and that's the thing. Like, there's plenty of work to go around for everyone. Protect your sisters, and it's not a competition. It never will be, right? If you do good and see good and be good, then that will take you way further than trying to put other people down, especially women. Okay, that's it.
All great advice to take with us. I know we're about 7 minutes beforehand. I will probably keep all the panelists behind for a few minutes just to talk about some things that we do post-event. But I would like to thank everyone for coming out today, listening to our wonderful panelists. Is there anything that any of you ladies would like to add before we conclude our section?
We really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys. Like, obviously, mentoring is our passion. Are there any questions, or did you get them all, Lauren? Did you get everybody's questions?
No, we can open it up for questions. I just didn't know if you guys had anything else, but if anyone has any questions, it's in here, and then we will definitely post this. And if any questions come up after people watch the video, then I'll probably just direct that to you as well. But anyone have any questions that is in here?
I'd probably just say thank you guys so much for coming. I hope you guys can come back for the real estate club and keep doing a co-event in the future. I think having the crew with the real estate club in the future is going to be huge for club participation and things like that. And having that sort of voice for us is going to be awesome, especially when we're growing the program in Indianapolis. So I really hope you guys will come back, and I really thought this is some great discussion. And so thank you for having me.
I will just add one little thing. Also, everyone saw the three of us just put our email addresses in the chat box, so feel free to reach out to us. And then also, we are all on LinkedIn, and so I would encourage you all to connect with us there as well.
Don't connect me on LinkedIn unless you actually want to have a conversation, because then you just become a random. Like, I'm glad to talk to you, but then, let's have a conversation. And Michael, the smartest men support the women, right? Like, we're completely different than you, and to embrace a different perspective is just what you should be doing. So yeah, good for you, Michael. Team men. I think Calvin fell off, or I would thank him too, but I think, and Michael, we got a Michael in here. I assume it's a boy. I probably shouldn't do that, but I think it says a lot when you want to come and listen to a female-led group. So.
Well, I think if we have no more questions, then we can go ahead and conclude this panel. I really want to thank you again. Like Michael had said, we appreciate you taking the time, speaking to our members, and then speaking to our members that will watch this later. And also, I feel like I could probably have all of you speak to me in the morning, and it would just jumpstart my day. So I really appreciate all of you taking the time and giving us your advice. And yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.